So welcome to We Are Napier, the podcast that shares alumni stories, puts resilient skills in context and prepares you for a changing world. My name's Dave Jarrold. I'll be your host for this episode, and I'm joined today by teacher Heather Henderson. Heather, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Oh, thanks very much. Thanks for joining us. So just to set this in context a little bit, we are planning to release this episode close to UNESCO's World Teacher Day on the 5th of October. But that's not when we're recording it. So today is the 9th of September, which is day one, week one at Napier. So I know for my academic colleagues and my teaching colleagues, what kind of chaos that is on that side. What's that like for you, that start of term? What's that whole kind of process like?
Oh, start of term is always just crazy. There's the excitement, and then there's you've just come back off summer break and it's been 6 weeks and you actually don't know if you can teach because you think you've forgotten everything. It's a bit like riding a bike. You don't really forget it, but you just kind of have that mild crisis of like, what if I've forgotten everything? But no, it's really good seeing pupils I've taught before, or like the new little first years coming up. I just love seeing other faces again and hearing about what they did during summer, and just seeing they all shoot up over the summer as well. You do double takes and I'm like, where are you? Yeah, no, it's busy, but it's a good busy.
Yeah. It's a bit of an aside already, but how do you look after your voice? Because as I do a lot of training work, and I know that if I've not done anything in the room for a while, and then all of a sudden I've got a few days when I'm doing lots of training in a room, the voice kind of gets quite croaky after 2 or 3 days. Do you look at any particular ways that you look after your voice?
I try not to shout. I project more like from my diaphragm rather than shouting. I always tell the kids, I'm like, I don't like being shouty, so stop making me be shouty. I try and project more than shout, because the shouting is what does the vocal cords, I think, rather than like projecting my voice.
I need to learn to project. I don't shout at people. I should just say that, but maybe I need to project better. I remember those teachers. They were my favourite teachers who didn't shout. So let's wind it back a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do, and what do you teach? What years? And what's your world of work like?
So I am a modern languages teacher in secondary school in Falkirk Council, and I've been a modern language teacher now since 2021. So I'm going into my 4th year of doing this, and it's French and Spanish that I teach, which is what I studied at Napier, and I love it. I just absolutely adore my choice and career, and yeah, it's difficult sometimes, but I really, really do enjoy it, because I literally teach everybody from S1 to S6. I have a class in every year group this year, which is wild.
That's really interesting. So you get that whole you get that perspective from the whole of the school.
Yeah. It's really good.
So going back a little bit further then, so what drove you for that, or motivated, inspired you to be a teacher, and languages in particular? So
languages, it was specific because I had amazing languages teachers when I was in high school, and it was very clear I was good at languages, and I knew I wanted to use them when I was older, but I didn't really. Translation and interpretation is a whole other kettle of fish that's like very intense and scary to me. But I thought, if I could be that kind of inspirational person for at least for even one child, it would be worth it in the end. And that's kind of why I picked to be a teacher very early on. Like I knew in sort of second year high school, that's what I wanted to do. But with modern languages, you don't do a 4-year course. You have to do it kind of in a longer, more circuitous fashion. So hence, I ended up at Napier and studied there, and then did a postgraduate qualification to do teaching.
So I can hear the sort of the passion in your voice for the subject, for what you do, and for that you're doing the teaching. How is the reality matched up? So that, as you said, from a young age, that was your inspiration. How's the reality matched up to that early inspiration and motivation?
For the most part, it matches quite good. I mean, there are things they do not tell you about teaching until you get in there and you're like, oh. But there's a lot of admin. There's a huge admin side to teaching that a lot of people probably never see, and you spend a lot of your free time, doing things like reports, or just random, like we have to do data protection training every year, and they never tell you about that. And for the most part, it is very much teaching young people has married up exactly with how I thought it was going to be.
Oh, that's amazing. Because then, there's that aphorism: if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's like, it's not. Yeah, it's not. I love training. I love being. It's probably very similar to yourself. I love being in a room with people and that kind of interaction and feedback and all the rest of it. But it's hard work at times, and there's all the other stuff that goes around it. But I think if you do something that you love and you've got a passion for, it keeps that motivation there, especially when things are a little bit gritty and maybe a bit challenging at times.
I would agree.
Excellent. So let's think about Napier, and tell us a bit about your time at Napier, your Napier experience. How was Napier for you?
Napier was really good. So I started Napier in 2016. I was 17 years old. And Napier was actually, I had a slightly torrid time applying to university. And Napier actually was the only university that did accept me in the end. And the course I went for was languages and intercultural communication. And I didn't honestly kind of know what I was getting myself into, but I remember the first module, the first seminar I went into was an introduction to language, discourse and society with Dr. Mabel Victoria, who still to this day is just a fabulous lecturer, and I loved her to bits the entire 4 years. And again, she's like another teacher that had a good impact on me, and I learned quite a lot from her as well, like teaching style, and she's just so kind and so supportive. And it really set the tone for like how Napier was going to be for those 4 years. I had, the course, it had a lot of the same lecturers throughout. I think I had 3 different modules from Mabel over the course of the 4 years, and it was really nice to see the same familiar faces. And I think that was half of it, as well as going to somewhere like Napier with the school in one place. You see all these people and you learn, you get to know them, and you can learn really cool things from them because they all have such different lived experiences. And I really enjoyed that aspect as well. Same with like the languages lecturers like Benedicte Cebrian, who was my main sort of Spanish lecturer the entire time. I learned so much from her, and she was so supportive, but in like her own sort of very specific way. And I was able to learn so much from all these different people. It was amazing. And I did graduate in 2020, which was obviously, it was a crazy, crazy year. And it was very different, but at the same time, I still got to say goodbye to like all the lecturers, even if it was like through Skype and Zoom and whatnot. Yeah. And it was a different ending, probably not one we were expecting as a cohort, but it taught us a lot, I think, as well about problem solving and going through different experiences and making the best of those experiences, even if they don't come the way you expected them to, I think is maybe the way to put it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So that was the next thing I was going to ask you about, which is a really neat kind of segue into this. So a big part of what we do is support students to develop that broader skill set of, resilient skills and facing change and challenges and working in teams and all that kind of thing. I think you had an object, or all students graduating in 2020 that went through that period had an object lesson in how to adapt and react to changing circumstances, not in the way we would like. We are not going to implement that as a training tool or a method, but I'm interested to get from your perspective, what are the skills that you found beyond your professional skills that have supported you either in your life, in your career? Because obviously the divide often between life skills and career skills and what supports us in professional work and personal life are fluid. The support it runs across. So what have you found most valuable and most useful?
I would say definitely I learned a lot of resilience through my time at Napier. And independence as well. Like I said, I was 17 when I started university. I still lived at home, and I didn't actually move out for the first time until I did my year abroad in Spain. which is a whole sort of, that's chucking yourself in at the deep end there, you know, not only are you moving out, but you're in another country. Slightly crazy, but that made me very resilient, because it was terrifying, and again, it was sink or swim. But you know, I knew I had the support of Napier kind of through email and whatnot, and it really allowed me to gain independence and gain problem solving skills. You know, not only are you doing, you know, you're living abroad, but you're speaking another language. It was that as well. My communication skills, obviously being a languages, you know, that was my degree, was languages and intercultural communication. Communication was pretty much there from the get-go. And I don't know a single profession in the world that doesn't need some level of communication to function. And certainly in my current profession, I communicate with everybody all the time. And it's not just with like face-to-face with people that I teach. It's, you know, with my colleagues, it's with home and whoever's at home for the young people. Being able to communicate effectively is something I definitely learned through being a part of Napier and you know, through my degree. Definitely that as well, and definitely problem solving skills.
Yeah.
You know, again, most people need problem solving skills in the world, and I think languages especially helps you with your problem solving skills. You know, trying to, I don't know what the word for this is, so I'm just going to go like, I'm going to work around it. I'm going to try and I'll put my point across. I'll try and get there. That sort of problem solving is really helpful as well. I teach a lot of young people who were trying to build up their problem solving skills, and it's a process, you know, and you need the younger you start learning those skills, the better, I would say, because some of them genuinely, they have no idea how to start finding an answer or solution to a problem. And, you know, and it's really quite daunting actually to be trying to facilitate their problem solving skills. But that definitely Napier helped me with that so much, especially my time abroad. I probably wouldn't be the person I am today without that experience that Napier allowed me to have. And I gained so many skills from it, like I said.
Yeah, that's a really good example of, like we say, the work that we do is around those resilient skills and supporting that development, but it's not like a standalone thing that sits there. It's embedded in all the learning that we do, because everything that Napier is organized, as you say, it's structured around that. It's not just here's information, go in and now you know stuff. It's how you investigate, how you find things out, how you solve problems, and how you tackle some of these challenges. It's embedded in everything we do. You know, employability is what all staff at Napier are part of, and it sounds like it's starting already for you. You're already starting to support the students at school to be developing those skills.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it stretches it already beyond just the topic.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Listen, that's been absolutely fascinating. I've got one final question for you. Now, if you were walking out of that graduation hall today, scroll in your hand, ready to face the world, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to yourself?
Don't give up. Don't give up. Even when it's difficult, don't give up. Oops, sorry about that. Don't give up. You're meant to have these experiences, and you learn something from each and every single one of them. So just keep going through it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's sometimes it's the really tough and gritty experiences that teach us a lot. And maybe you need a little bit of time to bounce back and recover. But then there's some nuggets in that you'll take forward.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thanks so much for giving us some of your time, Heather. I really enjoyed chatting to you today. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Dave.